No other symbol on earth that has traveled such a complicated journey. A symbol that once represented auspiciousness was drawn on ancient homes, temples, portraits before many of the world's modern religious and political identities took shape. And yet today, for millions of people around the world, the same symbol carries a completely different emotion: fear, pain, hatred. So, how does four bent lines become one of the most emotionally powerful symbol in the human history? How does a symbol of blessings become a symbol of trauma? This is the story of swastika. The word swastika comes from a Sanskrit language. Su means good or auspicious. Asti means to be or existence. Ka is a grammatical suffix. Together, swastika carries the meaning that which brings well being or a mark of good fortune. In Indian household, the symbol became deeply connected with the idea of Shubh, means auspiciousness. Even today, during weddings and festivals, many Indian families still uses this ancient practice of drawing or displaying swastika as a sign of blessing. But this raises a very fascinating question. Why this particular shape? Why these forearms? Why this movement? The truth is, there is no single universally accepted explanation for this. Across different traditions, people found different layers of meaning within this geometric form. One later, Vedic tradition interpretations connect the forearms with the swastika of the four Purusharthas, meaning the four aims of human life: Dharma, Earth, Kam, Moksha. The four directions describe different relationships between the individual soul and the divine: Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, and Sayujya. Vedic spiritual interpretation connects the 4 points with the path of bhakti, means devotion: Shraddha, Vishwas, Prem, and Samarpan. It represents the level of spiritual journey. The four dots, often seen around the swastika as Antahakaran, the inner instrument of the mind: Manas, Buddhi, Ahankar, and Chetna. These interpretations are not archaeological explanation, but still it shows something very important: that humans have always looked for a deeper meaning, doesn't matter if it's an object or a symbol. In many Hindu traditions, the clockwise form of swastika is commonly associated with auspiciousness, whereas the reverse orientation appears in some tantric and Buddhist traditions, where it may represent inward movement, return, or spiritual reflection. Neither orientation is universally good or bad. The meaning depends on the culture, tradition, and context in which the symbol appears. The swastika was not created by one civilization. It did not begin inside one temple or one kingdom or one corner of the world. Ancient humans, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, kept drawing the similar shape. What did people living thousands of years ago see in this simple geometric form that they carved it into pottery, decorating their objects and preserved it across the generations? To understand this journey, we have to travel back to see the earliest traces of this symbol. Archaeologists have discovered swastika like patterns from prehistoric times. Among the earliest known examples are mammoth ivory carvings discovered at the prehistoric settlement of Mezin in modern day Ukraine. These carvings are estimated to be around 12,000 years old. The pattern resembles the familiar four armed form that we recognize today. However, these earlier humans gave the same meaning to the symbol that later cultures gave to the swastika. We simply do not know. The ancient civilizations did not leave behind any explanation for these symbols, so archaeologists have to study. The meaning that we recognize today developed gradually across thousands of years ago and many different cultures. The people of the Indus Valley civilization were already creating complexities, trade networks, and artistic traditions. This civilization flourished approximately between 2600 and 1900 BCE in the regions that are now parts of India and Pakistan. Archaeologists have discovered swastika like patterns on artifacts connected with this civilization. They appear on seals, pottery, and other objects. We cannot say with certainty what this symbol meant to the people of Indus Valley. They left behind one of the world's oldest writing system which remains undeciphered. So we do not have their own explanation. What we can say is this, that the symbol appeared repeatedly. It was created intentionally, and its presence tells us this geometric pattern held some kind of importance. And then something more fascinating happened. The symbol started traveling. Around 2000 years ago, as Buddhism spread from India across Asia, the swastika traveled with it. But something interesting happened. It did not disappear into new cultures, it was absorbed. It became a part of new artistic and spiritual traditions as Buddhism moved through regions like China, Korea, Japan, and Tibet. The swastika acquired meaning connected with eternity, the endless cycle of existence, the Buddha's teaching, and spiritual harmony. In many Buddhist traditions, the symbol became associated with the idea of continuity, something without beginning or end. In some East Asian cultures, the swastika has been used as a sacred marker of Buddhist temples. For example, in Japan, traditional maps have historically used the symbol to indicate Buddhist temples, not because of politics, not because of Europe, but because of centuries it represented a place of spiritual learning, completely different meaning, and completely different memory. But the journey of swastika did not stop in Asia. Ancient Europeans were also drawing the similar dramatic forms. The symbol appeared in Greek pottery, Roman mosaics, Bronze Age artifacts, and decorative patterns across Europe. To many ancient cultures, dramatic patterns were not simply decoration. They reflected the world people saw around them, the movement of the sun, the turning of the sky, the changing seasons, the cycle of life. The ancient world did not always separate mathematics, nature, spirituality, and art the way modern society often do. Later, across different civilizations, the symbol evolved into many forms, each with its own history and meaning. In Germany, the Nazi version became known as the Hakenkreuz, meaning hooked cross. In ancient Greece, it appeared as the Gamadion and Philfet, both built from core Greek gamma shaped arms. Northern Europe developed forms such as Tunsundua in Finland and Ugunkrots in Latvia, and the Kolovrat among Slavic traditions, where rotating arms often symbolized protection, the sun, or the cycle of life. In Armenia, a similar solar emblem became known as Arvakach, literally the sun cross. Across Asia, the symbol took on spiritual meanings. In Hinduism, the swastika became a symbol of auspiciousness and well being. In Buddhism, it came to represent eternity, the Buddha's teaching, and the endless cycle of existence. In Jainism, it remains one of the religion's most sacred symbols. In China, it became to known as Wan, representing 10,000, abundance, and eternity. In Japan, it called Manji and has long been used to mark Buddhist temples. Among many indigenous cultures of North America, swastika like motifs also appeared independently in pottery, weaving, and ceremonial art, carrying meaning unique to each community. In West Africa, the Encontem symbol of the Akan people represents loyalty, unity, and strength. So, across thousands of years, from prehistoric carvings to ancient cities to Buddhist temples to European artwork, one pattern kept appearing. But perhaps the question is not why did humans draw this shape? The deeper question is why do humans give shapes meaning at all? And this is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Not because the symbol is sinister, but because it proves something bigger. We humans don't just receive meanings, we manufacture it over and over again, independently, whenever a shape reminds us something true about the world. If you concentrate on this symbol, you are not just seeing a shape, Within milliseconds, your brain is asking, have I seen this before? What's the story attached to it? And how should I feel? Afraid or safe? A symbol is never just a shape to your brain. It's a shape plus a memory, and that memory is learned, not born with you. Same four lines, completely different neural response just because two people carry completely different story. Which means someone has to be the one that changes the story, and perhaps no symbol demonstrates this better than swastika. For thousands of years, it represented the cosmic order, but in the 20th century, one political move attached an entirely different story to it. This is the chapter where the meaning of swastika changed forever. In 1919, a small political group called the German Workers' Party was formed in Munich. This organization would later become the National Socialist German Workers' Party, better known as the Nazi Party. Germany at the time was facing deep social and economic problems. Many extremist movements began searching for a symbol that could represent a new identity and return to a powerful past. The swastika became one of those symbols. But why swastika? By the late 19th century, the swastika had already been adopted by some European nationalist groups, believed it was ancient symbol of Aryan race. When Hitler adopted it in 1920, he wasn't reviving its original meaning. He was deliberately rebranding an ancient symbol to support a modern political ideology. In doing so, he replaced thousands of years of culture and religious meaning with an entirely new and destructive one. Another question historians continue to discuss is why Hitler and some senior Nazi leaders were so interested in archaeology, ancient civilizations, and mythology. Organizations such as the SS, particularly under Heinrich, sponsored archaeological expeditions and research into Germanic history, ancient symbols, and mythology. Historians generally agree these efforts were used to build a mythical past for Nazi ideology. Others have speculated that some Nazi leaders believed ancient civilization possessed forgotten knowledge and spiritual power, but they continue to be the subject for debates, documentaries, and podcasts. Several people within German nationalist movements were involved in developing early versions of the symbol. One important figure was Friedrich. Friedrich was a member of German Workers' Party and proposed an early swastika design around 1919. His version included swastika that was similar to but not identical with the final Nazi version. However, Adolf Hitler later claimed that he personally helped create the final design of the Nazi flag. In his book Mein Kampf, he described the meaning he assigned to the colors and symbols. According to Hitler, red represents the social idea of the movement, white represents the national idea, the black swastika represents what he described as the struggle for the victory of the Aryan man. It was a new political meaning created by Nazi ideology. And perhaps this is the most important lesson that swastika teaches us. Symbols do not come into the world with a fixed meaning. We humans give them meaning, generations after generations. A symbol can carry the prayers of the ancient civilizations and later can be used to represent destruction. It can become a symbol of hope to one community and a reminder for another one. That does not mean that every interpretation is equally valid. The history matters. The suffering connected with the symbol matters. And we must never ignore the harm caused when a symbol is used to spread hatred. And it also reminds us to be careful before accepting any single explanation for anything that has existed for thousands of years. Because symbols are not only shapes, they are the containers of human memory. When we understand how meanings are created, we understand something deeper about ourselves. Because behind every symbol, there is a story, and behind every story, there is humanity's endless search for the meaning. Meaning isn't fixed, it's inherited, built, and sometimes even stolen.